Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. We're here today to talk about Ahsoka, and we're going to be talking about some of the Disney Plus shows that we have enjoyed and some of the ones that we have not enjoyed. And as always, I have here with me Ramon
Hey guys.
and Raul.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey guys, and I'm excited to talk about this because, the question is, did Ahsoka save Star Wars? Spoiler alert. No, it did not.
Damn.
Andor actually did. And before Andor, there was The Mandalorian season 1 and 2. But regardless, I think Ahsoka was pretty decent show, man. So kind of want to hear your thoughts on it. Ro, what did you think about Ahsoka?
Well, and you also forgot Boba Fett episode 3 and 4 or
And
whatever.
4. The ones with the Mandalorian.
Oh, the ones with the Mandalorian? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mandalorian season 2.5.
2.5.
No, honestly, I wasn't a giant fan of Ahsoka. Like, I like her. I love Rosario Dawson as her.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch Clone Wars. I didn't see Rebels. And, like, this show, it was just like a generic Star Wars show for me. And it was mediocre. Like Ezra, for the longest, I had no idea who he was. I know he was involved in some of the animated shows, but like too much emphasis was on him without any actual history in the movies. And if you didn't watch the shows, and you just know that there's a guy that they knew that was lost somewhere, that some people believed was alive and some people didn't believe was alive, and then they found him.
Honestly, that's a pretty good description of what did happen.
Basically what happened.
Yeah.
Ramon, I don't know if you want to just go ahead with everything Ro just said or bring your own.
No. I got my own. I mean, you guys know, like I do get a little shy to talk about Star Wars, and I think it is because it's such a big universe. And I think this is a show. This show is the primary example of what happens when you don't follow a lot of the stuff that's in there. And for things like those shows that Raul mentioned, like Rebels, Clone Wars, like it's tough if you didn't watch those, because I definitely agree with Raul. Like I was kind of a little bit lost as to who some of these characters were. Now that you can do homework, watch some videos, get caught up a little bit, but it's not that whole overall experience. However, though, I actually liked Ahsoka. I liked it for the tone.
Here's the thing, though. Like, based off of what you said, like, what show do you want to watch that requires homework?
That's true. I mean, it's true. But to be fair, I watched it after I finished Ahsoka, which didn't make any sense. But I went back and I kind of was like, okay, now that I kind of watched the show, not knowing, I gather some information, like what else can I get that's kind of like, brief, like 12-minute video just to kind of summarize at least what Ahsoka's like influence or kind of where she comes from and all this stuff. Regardless, Ahsoka standalone, I feel like it had some like how would you call it? Like for me, it had an air mystery that I'm still really intrigued. And I don't know if you, Carlos, who kind of follows these a little bit better, if you kind of know. Like so throughout the show, there's this whole with Lord or not Lord, but Balin, like the the Jedi gone dark, his
Ray
apprentice,
Stevenson?
and then his apprentice Shin, like especially him, like he's on a mission of his own. And then just the fact that they end up in the one galaxy that's also kind of really was almost more of a legend, like that whole idea and the whole fact that to them it's kind of very legendary and there is kind of this weird mysticism whether it existed or not. I love that part of it. I love how him and some of the characters had a very Game of Thrones feel. Like a lot of the show did have a real like Game of Thrones feel, and I think that's what I enjoyed the most. Other than that, like Raul said, it's definitely very Star Wars of a show. But at least to me, it made it enjoyable. There was a lot more than just I didn't watch the other shows. Part of it that was a mystery. There's some of it that I kind of still want to know and I'm invested in.
Well, dude, I will say that the villains were definitely the best part of the show because they were actually like legit, yeah. And the mystery that you mentioned like added to their personality and their aura and everything. So I'm definitely a fan of that part.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I have watched Clone Wars. I obviously have watched Rebels, and I played the video games, and I know a little bit of the stuff that happens in the comics. So, and even some of the stuff in Legends that's no longer like canon anymore. So, like, obviously, like that stuff does help you long term when you're watching anything Star Wars. But that's also a mistake if you kind of like are selling that to those people, because at the end of the day, you should be selling this to like the general public or even like young children that right now, as of this point, like they don't know that history, but you should almost in a way sell it to them in a way that they can go, like you said, Ramon, and after they watch the show, kind of do their own history or go back and actually watch Rebels or Clone Wars or wherever they feel like they want to start. My one criticism of this show, man, Star Wars is just never gonna be good when it gets too silly and goofy, man. And I think that's when it like really brings me down. I think there's been, like throughout the whole time we started this podcast, you always hear me talk about Andor. And the reason why I talk about Andor, Ramon, is because Andor will make you fear stormtroopers. Andor will make you fear TIE fighters. If you see a TIE fighter and you're just a regular person, you're going to shit your pants because TIE fighters are scary in Andor. The Empire's scary. It makes you feel like we do got to rebel and we do got to take these people down because they are going to make our life a living hell. And if you would only watch Andor, it would kind of bring the love that you have lost for Star Wars a little bit back, because it's just like it was such a great show. And Ahsoka almost got me there, but then there were these episodes that just became silly. I think the one for me that just kind of lost me completely towards the end was when they finally found Ezra. And obviously, he was just a little bit too happy, which is okay because a lot of the people in the show were kind of like we're a little bit too sad to begin with, including Rosario as Ahsoka.
She was
too, like super serious. But when they found Ezra, and then they have this whole like they're defending the campground, and the stormtroopers are attacking, and then the way they take them down, it's just like, dude, this is so silly. This is not like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this character that you've been building up do all these silly ways of taking down stormtroopers. That these are like sort of like these stormtroopers. When I first saw them, dude, they were so intimidating. They were so cool looking.
Goodness, yeah.
But then they get taken out like in such silly ways, and it's just like, oh my god, like Star Wars, like stop it. Like I understand it, but you're gonna lose the fandom when you like you lower yourself to making things a little bit too cartoonish and too goofy. I think you just should maintain a tone. Like, hey, the show's gonna be this tone. You gotta continue that tone throughout the whole show, man. You can't like give out in the middle of it and say like, okay, well, we gotta like bring it down and bring some silliness to it because people are gonna complain. Because I don't think that's what people want at all.
No, I mean, and it's difficult. I think, and I'm glad we're gonna talk about Disney shows like a little bit later. But I think that's part of the issue is that you ultimately have a company that's making a show hoping to captivate like young audiences. Because I mean, when I was young and I first watched Star Wars, like I remember I was mesmerized and things were scary, like stormtroopers, like Darth Vader, like all those characters were menacing to me, and they kind of you had you feared their use of the Force, or at least like Darth Vader use of the Force. You felt like just what a group of like stormtroopers could do if they're all trying to like find you. But then when you watch it as an adult, you're like, some of those things were kind of silly, how they're always missing their shots and things that everybody always kind of criticizes. And I think it's beyond that. I think it's just the fact that yes, I think as the people, and we're not even that first generation to Star Wars, right? Like it came out in the 70s, so there's a group behind us that kind of were fans before us. But there is something to be said that all those people, including us, have grown up since. And yes, there is a desire for perhaps like darker or just a little bit more serious, or like the choreography to be harder, like that kind of Star Wars, so that it really kind of like that it would have grown with us instead of just stayed at this level where it's like, oh cool, like yes, of course we want to please like the fans, but at the same time we also want to make sure that the kids can buy toys and go to like Disney and have their like little hermit crab dudes that just kind of like hide in their shell, and so I mean, but yeah, I think like Raul said, villains and just like what you said, Carlos, so there was part of it, and starting in the beginning, it's still captivated me. Like I know I didn't want to watch it right away, like I didn't even finish Obi-Wan, but like once I actually started Ahsoka, I was very captivated by it. But again, it's because of characters like Baylan and Shin, who were like very like dark and ominous and just had a different mission, right? Like it didn't seem like they were just trying to support the
Good luck recasting Baylan for season 2, just because he like passed away, man. But he was the best.
Are they gonna do a? Are they gonna? Oh yeah, they have to do a season 2.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, they're doing like spin-off stuff with this show. But
hey, quick question. So this is after episode 6, right? After this 6, before 7.
This is like the Empire's been. This is after like Return of the Jedi, the last one. So yeah, this is after episode. This is like. This is during Mandalorian time, bro. Because obviously, you saw Ahsoka during the Mandalorian. So, like, it's like around.
And Luke's still kind of young, but not old man Luke.
Yeah, but like again, going back to like Rey, I don't want to get off of him, man, because again, he was so young to hear him pass away.
Dude, he was so good.
Yeah, he was so good. His apprentice was even like her. I think there's a lot of like fandom for her, even though there's times where like people were making fun of her of like how clueless she was and how like Ray wasn't really being like 100% like telling her everything, so she had sometimes like these looks of on her face like what are you saying, like what's going on. So that
Well,
stuff, and I like
I just feel like he was more guiding her towards his vision and what he saw, like
yeah
for like the future, his dream or whatever, and because she was kind of just following him. Like I didn't see any like self motivation besides doing whatever he kind of guided her to do. But that's kind of the way that I saw it, which is why she was, in my opinion, like that. But I like the dynamic between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked her character. Well, first of all, I identified who exactly she looks like and why everybody loves her. She looks like a mixture of Scarlett Johansson and freaking Elizabeth Olsen, like put together. It's like if they had a baby, that's her. But no, no, like I really
Yeah.
I like again, same thing. I liked her mysticism, how she was kind of like a stranger to us because we knew where Lord Balin had come from. Like he was an old Jedi who was trained in the Jedi Order, and then long since
Got
that's like
disillusioned,
kind of
yeah.
he got disillusioned. But even from the beginning, you kind of know he has an ulterior motive to helping out like this whole situation. And I think that's part of it, is that he keeps it a mystery even from her, because there's plenty of scenes where he's like, no, like there is this great future for you, or this like one, I don't know. He keeps talking about this like weird or premonition that he has of her, that he knows she's going to do something else, but then he leaves her behind like towards the end of the show, right? And then he goes and follows his own like thing that he knows exists in this planet, which again, he even mentions that in this planet, it seems to be like a planet of stories, and they didn't even believe that it still existed or it existed to begin with. So I'm just so like involved with that world. So it puts her in a more mysterious like place for me, because I want to know, he knows some crazy stuff, but then he also believes in her so much, but enough to kind of leave her on her own. I thought she was cool. She was definitely like a very emo, like Game of Thrones character.
I love the fact that they finally brought the witches into the Star Wars live action, because they were a big part of the Clone Wars. And, like to give them a little bit of history, like they were the ones responsible for, I think, even like kind of in a way recruiting Darth Maul. Like they found him and they gave him like some power, and there's a whole storyline with them and like their planet and like who they serve. And like I definitely had seen them before, so like they weren't a mystery to me, but I'm really happy that they brought them in, because then like I'm hoping that kind of gave you guys a little bit of a mystery to be like, oh, now we got witches and what are they about?
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and like even that one that was fighting Ahsoka at the end, like that was a hell of a fight, man. Like that was probably the best fight in the whole show towards the end, when I don't know her name. Sword. Yeah, when they were
Morgan.
fighting each other.
Yeah,
when they were fighting each other, that was really cool.
What was the rematch? It was the rematch from Mandalorian, is when they fought her first. Yeah, because like in the Mandalorian, because oh my god, yes.
So that was her.
That's her. Yeah,
see,
that's her.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it is. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. You're right. It
is, because that's when they first started realizing that she still has ties to like the Empire in some way or another, and they really want to find out what it is that she's kind of after. And of course, Ahsoka being in the Mandalorian universe, it has to do very much as to how there is
the thing. And
she has like a staff and so yes, rematch.
And that makes it even more like I like that, because now I'm putting together when she was captured and why they're trying to free her, and that's really cool, man. Like so that's great. I just sucks that obviously like she's gone, but the other like elderly witches, I mean, they're still around, so who knows what they're gonna do later on. Like I don't know.
And I'll say this, because it's always been the case. Like I think the best thing that Star Wars and George Lucas did is like build this world, like the super complex world with all these different concepts. And I think that's probably the best thing about Star Wars. But like the issues that you run into is the execution of some of these stories, because I don't think they do the Jedi's justice like enough. Andor is a perfect example of one part of this world that they can do, because politics is a huge part of this world. Because you have the Empire, you have the Republic, you have the Senate, you have the Emperor, you have all these different worlds and everything, and the politics of that, and then and plus all these races and all that stuff of different types of people, and then you have this kind of like magic thing with the Force, that you have the light and the dark side, and then you have the Jedi's which are good or bad, kind of depending on what point of view you have, and then you have the Siths, and then you have like the different people of like the Mandalorians and the weird music with Jizz. that just I just had
And all that led up to you wanting to say Jizz.
Barely.
the Jizz band. Yeah,
I thought you were going to throw in the ET race in there. No, we didn't add the ET. It's Jizz.
I don't know, like I don't know if
and
for
the
you
yellow
guys,
people.
yeah. I was gonna say I don't know if you guys have a favorite episode, but for me, I think the one that was my favorite one was the one where Ahsoka falls in the water and she's having these memories,
Cool.
or she goes into
with
this
Anakin?
other. Yeah, with Anakin, and they show where it's like the siege of Mandalore, and so I thought that was really cool. And if anybody's trying to like play who the young Ahsoka was, it was the girl from Barbie, Ramon over the summer, the daughter. So it's like that actress was. Yeah, so it's like I really like
one
that,
of the
man.
Bratz dolls, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. One of the
Sasha.
They have
Yeah.
Bratz and Barbie.
Yeah, they were all those. Oh, we
the-
haven't seen Barbie, so yeah, you wouldn't know.
Loser.
I saw Oppenheimer.
But
Okay. History.
but I mean, that was to me, that was like the coolest thing I think out of the whole show. I think to me that was because everybody wanted to see Anakin. Like, I mean, they brought him back for the Obi-Wan show, but I don't think people were too happy with what they got in that show. But here, that episode, even though the CGI making him younger kind of was a little bit off, like I did like the interaction they had between one another, and you saw more of Anakin's like his light side and his dark side, and you just kind of like, it's hard to not imagine like what would have happened if Anakin never went to the dark side, because obviously he was just like such a cool person. I don't think the prequels did him a lot.
You're supposed to be Neo.
He is the one, man. I still believe he was the one.
I mean, just
not Luke, but he is the one. Like, he's the one that was technically. I think he's gonna play a bigger role in this.
Or maybe Rey is the one.
Now you're just trying to get us to people to write us hate messages.
No, but I think, I mean, again, we're sticking with just the show in general, like not necessarily favorite episode, but Carlos, you mentioned that with the Anakin kind of coming back. I did like that was a big part of the show, was just the relationship between like the Jedi, like the Master and the Padawan, like having Ahsoka in this like relationship that, again, to like maybe perhaps me and Raul, I didn't know how her and what's her name? Oh my God, Sydney or Sabine, her and Sabine were even like student teacher, and like you were like that. Was that like, when did that happen? Did that happen like during those wars? And it was just it was kind of like strange to like see that dynamic in the beginning, because all we found out is that they were kind of falling apart, right? And then you saw that rebuild as the show progressed. But I think when it hit that episode with Anakin, it kind of just brought it back to the whole like, oh yes, this show really, like a big part of it was this, that relationship between Sabine and freaking Ahsoka, and how they were supposed to like just really work on their relationship. And even the scene where like Ahsoka was able to sense her as when they were in the freaking field, it's just it was about that relationship of the Jedi and his student.
Dude, and Sabine's a Mandalorian, like like the previous Mandalorian Jedi was the one that built the Darksaber, wasn't he? After video,
I just know that the Mandalorians and like the Jedis, they were never they've been like the natural enemies. Like, if you ever look at the weapons that a Mandalorian have, they're all to like they're all to counter like a Jedi. The way that they fight, they're all from like distance fighters, flamethrowers, jetpacks, sound waves. It's always to like counter a Jedi. So I know in the Legends, like there was I don't know, I think it was potentially one of Luke's like kids that did become a Mandalorian or train in the Mandalorian ways. So we did have a Mandalorian and a Jedi, and people really have always wanted that. So I'm really happy that with Sabine we are getting this idea of a Mandalorian and a Jedi, because that's super cool and super interesting to me.
And Grogu.
Grogu. But Grogu's going to be the Mandalore. Grogu's going to be like the ultimate one of those mixes.
With Sabine, honestly, just I don't remember her having any kind of like Jedi powers. That's the part that watching the show really confused me, because when I was watching Rebels, she always seemed like you would have liked her in Rebels, Ramon, because she was the graffiti artist. She would draw this cool art. Her helmet was like graffiti and all these cool things, but I don't ever remember her being like, oh, I have Jedi or the Force in me. Like, I have the Force in me. So I don't know, after like, after Rebels, like it just became something where like Ahsoka felt it in her and they're trying to bring it out. And, they keep saying how she just doesn't have it. And she's probably the weakest Jedi that they've ever seen. And even in the last episode, like Ahsoka was like,
in the Force.
Yeah, even in the last episode, Ahsoka was like, "Hey, put down your blades because you're probably better at shooting than you're not doing nothing with your lightsaber." And if you see it, she's not reflecting any of the bullets; like she's just like reflecting them and they're hitting the ground. So like Ahsoka was like, "Yeah, put those down and just start shooting."
That was an interesting.
No, but you know what? Like I think that was good because when she had the moment when she pushed Ezra up on the ship, I think it all kind of like culminated with that because like she had been struggling to use the Force all that time, and then like even when she proposed it to Ezra, he was like, "What?"
that was quite elite too because he was going downward and he was all whoop.
Yeah, I know. So it was obvious that the Force was used. So I'm glad that they did it how they did it, but I don't know. I was kind of like quietly proud of her.
I mean, yeah, like I said, that whole relationship, I mean, that being a big part of the show, it makes you just kind of, you have to criticize it a little bit because Sabine as a character was definitely very much like moody teenager, even though I know obviously she's older and she's like heroic and comes from like the whole Clone Wars.
She's the Mandalorian.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying is like they played her down as like a teenage persona in the first couple episodes, and like you said, Carlos, like she had her like drawings all over that one radio tower and stuff like that, and she seemed very much like, oh, I don't want to be here. I'm gonna go be in solace. Like I'm gonna be alone, and
I'm too cool for school.
So yeah, in the beginning, it was very much like, who is this girl? Because again, us without the history, it's like, who is this girl, and why does she get to kind of play that part of like, oh, I'm not gonna go to this like assembly or this like thing. But then yeah, like I think I did like exploring that relationship between them two, especially because like once Ahsoka decided to like take her back as her apprentice, I think just it gave you more promise for like the next season because there is more that she has the potential. Like you guys said, she is a Mandalorian, so once she kind of harnesses the power of the Force, or at least the Force better, she should be pretty good.
Dude, so I didn't know that the robot that's always with Ahsoka was played by it's voiced by one of the Doctor Who. Yeah, by the Doctor Who actors. So I'm like, okay, that's blowing my mind right now. Just I'm like, wait a minute. Like, don't put him in a robot. Like, put him in the show.
Put him in the show.
That means really
well, because he's a good actor, so he can portray a lot of things with just his voice.
Yeah, no, but I mean, going back to Sabine, I mean, she was okay as like the lead for a while, even though the show's called Ahsoka. But I just wish we did get more of Ahsoka, and she wasn't so moody. And I thought maybe after she fell in the lake and had this vision, like her old self was gonna come back, which is a little bit more of a, she likes to like. Maybe a little bit more just like, I don't need my Star Wars characters to just not be as angry. I want them to be a little bit more lighthearted and actually like bring some like joy into the room. And she's just like the whole season, I feel like she was just a teacher and a mentor and always had to be serious. And to me, that's
old.
Yeah, and to me, it's not who Ahsoka is. I know she went through a lot, but it's just not who, to me, like the person I saw as a teenager. And obviously, the person I am today is not who I was as a teenager, but it just, to me, just didn't match up. Even looks-wise, 100%, but to me, personality-wise, I could have used a little bit more, like, just more fun.
Darth Vader was her mentor.
Yeah, Anakin was. And she didn't even know he was Darth Vader to, like, Rebels. So, yeah, it was Anakin.
But I think you kind of mentioned like when you were talking about, or you briefly mentioned Sabine, you're like, oh, this, even though it was supposed to be like Ahsoka, the show of Ahsoka. I think that is very true. Like I think for being a show about Ahsoka, like obviously it's not just about her; it's about everyone. But it does kind of play her a lot in the background, especially because, like you said, her demeanor. Like, there's not like, I mean, what does she overall do besides facilitate these like meetings? Like, she's helping freaking what's her name? Hara, the green.
Oh my god, Winston,
yeah. And like the whole situation is just like, she's always like a facilitator, or she's kind of there, and then it becomes a little bit about Sabine a little bit, and then becomes about like the witches and freaking the Admiral, and then it's just like a lot of the times it does feel like she was a background character, secondary character.
Do you know what though? That like I'm just kind of realizing that I think that's probably one of the faults when George Lucas created the Jedi, because if you notice, like that's what the Jedi are. The Jedi are calm. The Jedi are serious. They are not very emotional because emotions lead you to the dark side.
Well,
And that's kind of like everything that they do. And that was the problem with Anakin, was that he had strong emotions.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring my Clone Wars like history, and this is what sucks. It sucks the fact that they don't give you this stuff. But Ahsoka, the reason why she didn't get killed during Order 66 is because she left the Jedi Order. She was like, "This is BS. You guys are like all over the place, and your rules don't really make sense to like who the person that I am." And she straight up left it, man. So like this idea that you're saying, Ro, like, oh, she has to be this way because that's how the Jedi. She revolted against all that. She left the Jedi Order because she didn't like the way that they thought. So I do feel like
Jedi. She's the exact personification of what a Jedi is.
But even Anakin in the Clone Wars, they always made Anakin be like the guy that doesn't follow the rules, and he's like, oh, he's like the bad boy of Star Wars. Like, hey, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm actually gonna do this. And always like, but like in a fun way. Like you don't get it like in a fun way, like in a holy shit, like I'm gonna follow Anakin not because he's like evil and strong. Like no, this guy's fun, and he's like always limping, like he's always jumping in to save people. And it's like that's why it hurts so much to see the fact that Anakin did become evil, and I think that's what Clone Wars does do to you as a fan. He shows you the idea that this guy that was so cool, so awesome, he just wanted to be acknowledged for what he truly was, and nobody really acknowledged him, and obviously that was his downfall. I think that's what makes like Anakin such a good character. And again, it's just like Clone Wars sells you Anakin, and like the prequels never did that, so it sucks.
They showed a little bit of that in that flashback because
exactly.
In that flashback you saw that because like even she was questioning him wanting to fight or having to fight, and he's like, this is necessary, right? Like it's not just about like being peaceful and being like an exemplary Jedi. It's like sometimes you have to fight. And so even that just kind of reminds me of like those conversations and other things that I've seen in the past of the Anakin in between. And yeah, like I don't know, maybe it is like
maybe a bad boy of the Force.
but I mean, to your point, Raul, maybe Ahsoka's behaving the way, and maybe I don't know, Carlos, like maybe it's because the Jedi are diminishing and there's like fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
So perhaps there is more like responsibility in her end to like really kind of somehow maintain the order. But like I kind of see how where you're coming from without knowing like or having experience in that Ahsoka.
Yeah, because even Ahsoka does come into Rebels at a certain point, but she doesn't stay there for long. And
when is Rebels?
Rebels is after I guess the prequels.
It's before this, right? Before Ahsoka?
Yes. After the prequels, before
episode 4?
Before episode 4 and right after the third one, so like in the middle.
Oh, so at the same time as Rogue One?
Yeah, like around that time, yeah. Around like yeah. I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. See, that's the problem with this. That there's so many things. Like so few people, so few like adults saw Rebels and Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That like the old fans of Star Wars that saw the original trilogy. Yeah. Like some of them didn't even see the prequels.
Well, I guess the point I was trying to say is like Ahsoka, she's always meant to be in Rebels, like just how people get scared when they see Darth Vader, like, holy shit, Darth Vader, like, let's run, like, there's no way. That's who Ahsoka is in Rebels. It's like this Jedi that's been trained. She actually went from, like, being a Padawan from, like, being born into the Jedi Order, training, she left it. She's a Jedi Master in Rebels at that point. So it's like Ahsoka fights with 2 lightsabers. It's like, even that just makes her, like, super cool, the idea that she uses 2 lightsabers. And, like, yeah, like, she comes in and it's just, like, she doesn't rarely lose because of the fact that she's just she's had such crazy training role, like with during the Clone Wars, that if you saw, like, there's a whole episode where it's nothing but stormtroopers, and the whole episode, like, I think the 30 minutes or 15 minutes revolves around stormtroopers shooting her in a circle and her having to reflect the bullets. Dang. And every time, like, she gets stunned, like, she has to do it over and over again to the point where it's like, there is an episode later on that it pays off. It pays off why Ahsoka would have been able to, like, defeat a bunch of stormtroopers that are shooting her in a circle, because she had that kind of training. She trained so hard because she wanted to be the best. So that's why, like, even in this show,
no one ever was.
Yes, like no one ever said. I'm gonna put a nickel every time you say that, because you say that quite often, and it's my fault because I keep setting you up. But even the idea, like, Lord Balin, like, he is a Jedi Master, and like I do believe that Ahsoka would struggle with him, because at this point you're seeing 2 very strong Jedi Masters. Yeah. Ezra is a little bit kind of weird because Ezra was never really he wasn't born into the Jedi Order. He was just like a kid that had the Force, and then he was trained by Mary Elizabeth. Like you kind of hear references to him, and you see his son.
Wait, who?
With
my God.
Hera. Oh, Hera.
Hera, like she has a son, and that son
Green girl.
was from, yeah.
Green
I'm gonna
girl.
have to like
Picture
and that sucks,
Yeah.
man.
So Ezra was she's a Jedi?
No, see, and this sucks. Is like I could have sent you guys some videos, but I shouldn't have to, and that's the problem. Like
No,
most
that's-
people are
that's
gonna
the problem.
struggle.
That's
the problem.
That's
And
my
I'm-
problem with this.
I'm gonna keep that because you're reflecting the general audience that is just like they don't know this, they don't know none of it, they don't know why that kid potentially has the Force because his father had the Force. It's just like, yeah, you're getting
Is
all this.
Ezra his dad?
No, it's first time.
No.
no. Yeah,
But I mean, even Thrawn said that too when he finally found out that Ahsoka was part of this whole thing. He alluded to her like
he was cool.
legendary status too, and how he was like, "Do you know who her master was?" And then he just talks about her the same way that you were talking about her, Carlos, like that she is someone not to be messed around with. And not only that, he already has a whole like idea of like you don't leave a Jedi to kind of just do whatever because one Jedi solo by themselves has so much potential and so much thing. But yeah, he's one that he's one that highlighted Ahsoka like you wanted to, Carlos. Like, he definitely. But before then, there wasn't too much in this show that kind of made you realize that if you haven't seen anything before, you still don't know who Ahsoka is and how badass she is. But yeah, I mean, you get it in bits and pieces.
To wrap this up, can we just talk real quick about Thrawn? Because obviously he's somebody in the Mandalorian season 3. They couldn't like stop talking about him, and then obviously we get him here, and he's meant to be the next bad guy. But I don't know. What did you guys think about him?
Dude, honestly, like he looks menacing as hell. Like the actor that plays him, like does such a beautiful job. He seems like such a piece of doo doo. I think it's beautiful. Like I loved him.
I mean, I think in general for me, I like again where he's coming from in a sense of like this is what reminds me of like Game of Thrones as well, right? This is a guy who has pledged his allegiance at this moment to the witches because he's gonna use them to get what he wants. Yeah, he's gonna do to get what he wants, right? And through that, like he's amassing this power to basically, like you said, become like the next ruler in a sense. But I like his like army, right? Like at first his stormtroopers are fucking awesome. They're dirty, but they're embellished in gold, and they have these like kind of painted cracks to it. And then his main guy, I forget his name, like Enoch, maybe. Yeah,
with the
Enoch.
mask.
Yeah, like the mask, like that's so beautiful. Like,
super
and then
awesome.
he has the night troopers. I think they're called like the black ones that are zombies. Like before, not the ones that the witches turned into zombies, but his night troopers. Remember, like one of them had like the broken mask, and it was a legit ass like zombie in there. Perfect moments. They say zombies and he went into darkness. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he didn't get taken in. But no, like I really like that whole idea of like him having like this crazy army that you see the army and you see his presence and you truly are a little bit afraid of him.
No, definitely. So for me, I guess the problem with Thrawn, man, it was just that they kept, like I said, they kept building him up, and I felt like for some guy that's supposed to be so smart, I felt like they were making a fool of him. Like he kept saying, like, "Okay, we knocked down their spaceships, so now they're gonna be able to catch up, or it's gonna be almost impossible for them to like catch up." And next thing you know, like they're knocking on the door, and then they get in, and they're like, "All right, we need to buy time. Send the stormtroopers, and that should be enough." And then it's like that's not enough. It's like, okay, you're gonna have to stay behind, and finally we're gonna lose them. And it's like, nope, that's not even enough because Ezra gets into the ship. But it's like, dude, you keep being like this guy that's supposed to be so calculating, and that's the reason why we should be scared of you. But then the last final episode made me feel like you're a fool because even though you were never underestimating Ahsoka, you kept saying things that would make me feel like you were 5 steps ahead, but in reality, you were 1 step ahead and you barely got away. And it's just like, to me, I'm not sold on him. I'm sold on the idea of what he looks and what he's going to bring to the table and the people around him. But I'm not sold on him just being this calculating guy because obviously at the end of the day, he's going to lose. But that was like my thoughts about him.
And then Ezra made it. Like he didn't get captured, so then it's like what? Like he totally just went for that whole ride. Yeah, he went for that whole ride and then never like caught him. So,
dude, and the way that I kind of took it was that like that's how good the Jedi were because like I kind of took it as he expected them to get through everything that he kind of put, like whatever he sent, like he knew that they were going to get through it, but they were going to delay them. Because if you remember, I forgot what episode it was, that somebody proposed that he take like half of his army or whatever, and he was like, no, like I don't want to use that much. I'm only going to dedicate this much to whatever it is. I forgot what it was. I think it was to look for them or something.
But in the
like,
end of the day,
I feel like he was trying to use as little resources as possible, but he just wanted to get away.
But at the end of the day, if you don't use what you have to get away, then it's all pointless. So at this point, like I would be like, listen. I mean, did he though? And it's just, I don't know, man. This whole like, even at the end when Ezra like goes with him, and then how it ends with like Ezra landing on the on the rebel side, and then he's still wearing the stormtrooper outfit. And it's like, dude, this is like Star Wars. You're doing stuff that pisses me off. Like, take off the stupid helmet. Like, there's no reason for you to like step out of the ship wearing the helmet. Like the whole stormtrooper. Yeah,
but the whole Thrawn ending part of it though was kind of cool, right? Because it left a big old mystery. Like he's in what, the planet of where freaking Morgan was from? No,
yeah,
where Morgan was from. Like he was on that planet, and they had all those cases that looked almost like coffins. And like, do you remember that? Like it was him and the witches, and then a bunch of coffin looking like crates. And then he's just kind of like, oh, excellent. Like, my plan is coming to fruition.
Are we getting a Naruto Shippuden reviving, like, old Jedi kind of stuff?
Right? That's what I was wondering. I'm like, are we going to get more zombies? Because, like, you already know, like, before the witches turned that one
zombie
group of stormtroopers, I don't know. Because he had zombies in his group. Like, that was part of his squadron, is zombies.
That one guy was a zombie. So
maybe that is
zombie
what it
Siths?
is. I don't fucking know.
Well, we already got the zombie Sid was one of the ones that was with Lord Balin, one of the three, which I know you don't have any recollection of, Raul. Because
I was going to ask you about it. That's the guy that I wanted to bring up. That's the guy I wanted to bring up again. I'm like, Carlos, can you finally? Because we discussed this when we were like gaming the other night. It's like, that's one of the most mysterious characters in this show to me, is that third guy from Lord Balin's like group. And then when he got killed, he was like a freaking ghost. Yeah, he's just disintegrated. You don't, dude, the night that was with Balin and shit.
He was doing
okay. I know how.
There were so many times, especially in the beginning, so many times that I zoned out of this stupid show because it was dragging.
I got you. It's the guy with the spinny lightsaber.
Oh, there was a guy with a spinning lightsaber.
Which that was really cool from the way they do that.
I mean, but so do you know who he is, Carlos? Because like they never told us. It was he was like a ghost like being. He was a ghoul.
Yeah, exactly. That must have been. You know what? I think
demon.
And that is probably hinting at that, how you said the show ending, like they probably are going to bring back these like old zombie Jedis, and that would be really cool to see.
Or zombie Siths.
Dude, the whole time, I thought that was going to be a reveal, because I kind of mentioned like there's a Star Wars game, The Force Unleashed, where it's like Darth Vader had a secret apprentice. So I thought that the reveal was going to be that was going to be like, Darth Vader's secret apprentice. So it's like, oh my god, now we got Ahsoka, which is Anakin's apprentice, and now we got Darth Vader's apprentice. Hell yeah, we got a show. Sadly, that didn't come to fruition this season, but I'm still holding hopes for the second season.
Dude, well now
Star Killer. I
think just like the end of this conversation is just making me think that this is going in a very Game of Thrones. Like I already mentioned Game of Thrones so many times, but like yes, if he's gonna have some sort of like, well, you have all the stuff. I think Lord Balin, I think he's just the most. I guess he gives you the most idea what might happen, because he is seeking something we don't know about, right? And then you have freaking Thrawn, who has like a weird army of the dead, and so you could just think of like, okay, because he's gonna try to go back and conquer this army of the exactly. And then it's like, but what is Balin gonna find? What does he know exists in that planet, or
winter
legend? So that maybe a dragon. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, but no. Well, but I do like that about Ahsoka. I do like that dark. Clearly, they're going for something dark and ominous.
Ramon, like you did your homework, so you probably even have an idea of like that statue that he was sitting on top of at the very end of the season.
Vaguely,
and that was a statue. I thought it was just a mountain thing.
So it was like, bro, at this point, like just leave the episode. We'll call you back when we're talking Disney Plus.
Okay.
So it's just hinting at the father, the son, and the daughter. Which I'm not gonna go into explanation about it because there is a Clone Wars episode that does it perfectly, and actually Liam Neeson came back to voice his character from Star Wars, and that it was like a 3-episode thing that explains who the father, the daughter, and the son is. And it's awesome, man, because like George Lucas tried to give an explanation for the Force, and obviously nobody liked that. But the father, the daughter, and the son, that is like an explanation for the Force that a lot of people do like and want to know more about and thought was really interesting. And it all goes back to like Anakin maybe truly being the one, and now that he's dead, he can really actually fit the spot that he was always meant to fit. So I like that.
So there's another explanation besides the metachlorians or whatever.
I'm not gonna sit here and explain the father, the daughter, and the son, but you should really look up that episode because it's even if you see it out of context, like
Clone
Wars, and even at the end of the episode, they all lose their memories. So it's like one of those things that like, even though we saw it, once they revert back, like they don't even remember what they just experienced. But it's like the best explanation you're ever gonna get.
Like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood after he saw the truth.
Hey.
But he didn't forget. He still held on to the truth and actually made him.
He doesn't remember what he saw. He just is able to do alchemy without forming signs.
He remembers what he saw. It's like the knowledge. He got the knowledge. The more time you spend on it, the more knowledge you get.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Ramon.
It's not a spoiler.
All right, I'm done with you railroading this podcast episode, Ro.
I'm sorry, I wasn't a giant fan of this show. Out of all the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus,
I mean,
this is probably my lowest one.
Wow.
No, besides Boba Fett.
Final general consensus for me is Ahsoka's worth watching because it has, like, again, you might be lost a lot of the time, but there is something cool about it. There's something cool about it. There's some like weird mystery that is beyond, like, again, stuff that Carlos doesn't know right now. Other people that do watch it, there's still so much more that can be, and I think that's enough for me to kind of give me like oh, I want to watch season 2 because I want to find out what's going on. Yes, of course, I could go back and watch, Clone Wars and all this, but at the same time, I could also watch a 15-minute video that kind of summarizes all that, but I don't know. I liked it.
No, I same thing as you, Ramon. Like, this actually did make me a little more excited for the future of Star Wars because I think we could get some really fun stories out of it. Where the new movies that came out with Rey, like, especially towards the end, and like I just wasn't a fan of that whole thing. But I think
she's going to continue, isn't she?
Yeah, but I just think overall, like, this leaves Star Wars in a very good spot where I think if they play their cards right, it could bring a lot of fans back and kind of like have this whole like fun adventures, which is what we really truly want out of Star Wars. So I'm gonna pass it because out of we're gonna talk right now about like some of the shows that Disney Plus has done that have been truly terrible, and I would fail immediately. This one for me gets a pass because I think they were doing something big, and I think as long as they continue it and kind of have a pad to what they're trying to portray on Disney Plus or in movies. I don't know if this is ever going to step up to be like a movie theater experience with an actual movie that goes to cinemas, but that would be cool because I think you have something there with these characters.
I give it a C.
Well, that's not how we're going to do this upcoming next segment of our episode. All right. So, Ro, hopefully some of the shows that we're about to talk about next you have seen, because we are going to just talk about some of the shows that, Disney Plus has done that has worked for us and some of the ones that have not. I'm going to say personally, I didn't start paying for Disney Plus till like maybe a year after it came out because I just thought the whole service was trash and everything that they're offering wasn't worth me giving them my money. If it wasn't for Bluey, I wouldn't even pay for the service today. And that's me just shots firing at Disney Plus because I just feel like they don't, compared to a Netflix or a Prime, they're just not doing it, even though I could pay the 1 month and just binge all these shows and like, okay, I'm done with it, because that's really what they're doing. They're just giving you these shows throughout the year. They're
one show at a time.
Yeah, you can just binge in a month and like say like, okay, well, I got my money's worth out of it.
I think,
dude, honestly, that's so true. Like that's my issue with Disney Plus. Like the only time I watch it is when I'm watching the one show that I'm watching or the one movie that was in theaters that my son wants to watch, like Elemental.
Well, you guys
Yeah.
have heard a lot of the skepticism that I had lately because, and it is mostly because it is Disney and kind of what they're making right now sucks to me. But it's like I had never finished Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like I never, and/or not because I don't want. Obviously, you recommend it, so it is on top of my list. I will get to that one just because that comes like highly recommended by you. But you know what other one came out recently too that I also didn't watch.
Well, we don't have to just specifically Star Wars. Like I was gonna say, like we could start in the beginning, dude, with some of the shows that honestly got me very positive to like be like, okay, this is gonna be fun. WandaVision. I still think WandaVision.
X-Men 97.
Well, let's stay with one. So like WandaVision, like for example, I would say I would give that show a pass because even though people don't like the ending of it,
give it an A.
I like everything that I saw from the beginning. I like the intros, how they were like reflecting like, you know, the time period, whether it was like the Malcolm in the Middle kind of intro or whatever. But I did like that show, everything about it. So for me, that was like a very like A plus, like A plus A. That's where I'm sitting with WandaVision, you know, and I like
I give it an A.
They brought the Vision back, even though it's not the real Vision, but they brought him back.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Loki is another one to me. And I just watched the first episode of this new season, and the first episode alone is like a movie. And I mentioned it more to Raul. I haven't mentioned it to you, Carlos, but like phenomenal first episode of a season.
So people have been salty because I guess like okay, so people have gone the first 4 episodes, so they're salty about like, oh, this is not as great.
Out of 6. Yeah,
but the first episode that I saw, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Beautiful, like, this is so far so great. Everything about it, so I'm confused as to like where it could get worse from this. And I do agree. The first season of Loki, even though they were suffering with COVID at the time, really did a great job of like getting me excited for Kang, even for Kang. But you know, obviously, like I'm surprised that we're already at season 2 and we still haven't seen much of Kang besides Ant-Man.
Out of the whole multiverse saga, Loki has been the best part of the multiverse part.
I was explaining
Spider-Man.
I was explaining this to someone, and I feel like this is why like Loki, in the midst of this whole multiverse situation that's going on, doesn't feel the same, is because it's the innards of the multiverse, right? This is supposedly how we found out how the multiverse came to split, and it's also now dealing with the multiverse and trying to rebranch it or like prune it and all this stuff. And I think that's the reason why I could watch Loki and be like, you know, I'm still gonna enjoy this every step of the way, compared to like Quantumania, which is just like it was a lot. And then just other shows and random, even DC, you know, with the Flash kind of doing something similar, like that whole idea of the multiverse is getting really played out. But I think Loki brought it back, even with that first episode, and I feel like this is doing a wonderful job.
Awesome.
Like, and time travel too. It's a time travel multiverse. Like it's all good. It's
and so crazy that actor has really like sold this character for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And in DC's defense, they were going to come out with Flashpoint before Marvel came out saying that they
didn't do the real Flashpoint. If they would do like Flashpoint, like the that story, it would be a whole different story. This Flash movie, anything related to it,
for our more thorough thoughts, go back to our episode on the Flash movie.
So like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if I had to, okay, so we're just passing or fading. We're not in the middle. I'm going to give that a fail just because and at the end of the show, I don't think I really got much of it. I know it also suffered from COVID because I think they changed some of the storyline to reflect more. Because I think initially it was going to be like they were going to spread a virus. And they changed it. But I just didn't like anything about it. I didn't like the whole super soldier serum being spread like that. I just I would fail that immediately. Like,
I would give it a pass mostly because of the acting. Because I think Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are freaking amazing in those shows.
Dude, bro, I just wants to hug and kiss all these guys. I'm like,
but the idea that the Falcon couldn't get a loan, dude, to me, that's still so ridiculous. Dude. Like, couldn't get a bank loan.
It shows you well, obviously, there's bigger commentary, but it kind of shows you the reality of like, it kind of brings the whole heroing back to earth a little bit because.
Dude, like, he can do one sponsor.
I worked in banking for many years.
He could sponsor vitamin water and freaking be set for the rest of like his life, man, whatever.
So pretty much you're pitching The Boys.
No, exactly.
Or My Hero.
That's what I'm saying. No, but that's exactly what Winter Soldier, like that show. Sorry, The Falcon and Winter Soldier made me feel like I was watching like an excerpt of A Train in The Boys, where it wasn't even like a full show. Like it was just like a side story of a secondary character. Yes, he becomes like Captain America, but it's like it still wasn't enough of a reward for me at the end of the show to like overall say like, hey, that was a great show. Like not like Loki.
I will say that the
like
issue with some of these Marvel shows is that, like, besides Loki, none of the other ones have really paid off. Like the point of them, like with
Moon Knight. Did you guys like Moon Knight?
Fail for me.
I liked parts of it and other, but like, what's the point now? Like they're not showing anything. There's no other consequence. Even when they changed the whole sky, nowhere else in the MCU did they realize that the stars were changing.
I like the concept of it. I like Oscar Isaac, but Moon Knight. If you're selling me on Moon Knight, I never really found Joe and him turning into Moon Knight. I thought it was very Power Rangers, the fights that they had him do. And I think if you would have sold me more on Moon Knight, because I thought the first episode was really good. This idea of like blacking out and all of a sudden like everybody's on the floor like knocked out, and it's just like, oh, so cool, so interesting. But by the end of it, like it just lost me. It just became a giant kaiju fight at the end.
Yeah. Let me throw a show in there that I'm a fan of that it's not Marvel for once. And it goes off of this Ahsoka thing. I think Visions, the Star Wars Visions, like anthology.
Oh, dude,
I think and that's exactly like what I still wish a lot of Star Wars was. Like it was kind of individual stories of unknown people. Yeah, unknown people in the universe of Star Wars, but they have like different range of what the story is about, right? Like obviously the Ronin being one of like my favorites, but there's a couple other ones in there that you have, like you deal with like Siths and other Jedi that you're just like even in that like mini bit of like a time that you watch these like little episodes of an anthology, there is so much you can kind of take from.
Dude, it's kind of like the Mandalorian episode in the desert with the other guy that's the sheriff that had Boba Fett's armor.
Oh yeah.
How like that's the thing that I like in this world, that you can do so many different things with it, and just the fact that like, yes, Jedi are Ronin, Jedi are samurai, Jedi are cowboys in the West. And there are all these things.
And that kind of sucks, man, that eventually the Mandalorian did get dragged into, like, because it was such a hit that it just, like, they brought Luke Skywalker into it. They brought all this stuff that, like, where you were saying, Ramon, like, people wanted it to be disconnected. Like, this one storyline that doesn't have to be connected to everything. And eventually they did connect it. I would pass
Ahsoka,
season 1 and 2 of the Mandalorian. I would pass them, but the third one, man, I don't even know what the hell that
and
was.
2.5.
I wouldn't even call it a season 3. To me, that was just like disgrace of what the storytelling.
Yeah,
but I just Boba Fett was freaking trash too. That one,
except for the Mandalorian 2.5.
And it sucks because Boba Fett is one of those characters that young watching Star Wars was probably one of my favorite characters ever, because he had the jetpack. He was kind of doing something of his own, like, you know, obviously
he had the armor.
And then later on you kind of find out like what his like character and his dad and everything plays into it. But like now it's just an old man who they try to pass off as the same Boba Fett as like left off in the movies, like, you know.
The biggest mistake I think that Boba Fett made was to bring back the original actor, the one that plays like the clone troopers. You know, what's his name? He's like the father, the one that originally like they got the DNA to be like all the clones were made of. Like, I just think it was a mistake to bring that actor, because even Boba Fett, if you are taking him from the timeline when he was a kid to him naturally growing up, he was never meant to be like that old as he is. And I think it was just a mistake. They should have brought back somebody like in their 40s, maybe like middle, like in their 45s, somebody that's like really could have brought that, like, oh my God, even though this show might not be great, this character himself,
like The Rock,
not The Rock, but just somebody. Joking. It's just like him. It's just like he made the off, because I mean, it's not his fault that he's old and, you know, out of shape, but he just made it look goofy. Like, I just never believed that he could have been the same Boba Fett that we got in, you know, the other original Star Wars.
I never watched
Odenkirk.
Sorry, another show that I did not watch is Secret Invasion. I still wasn't sold on starting it, and after hearing everyone else talk about it, I don't think I ever want to continue watching it. Right? Like, what do I do?
I had such high hopes for it,
That will go down as the worst so far. I think if anybody made a list, like that would be at the very bottom of the worst.
The worst thing Marvel's done since Fantastic Four stick.
It's crazy. So before we keep going through these shows, I do want to say today there was a report where I guess it came out that Marvel Studios, when they were producing these shows, they were doing it without having a showrunner. And I think that was a reason why some of these shows weren't really great, because they were doing them without a showrunner. They weren't doing pilot episodes. And I think they were all kind of having the idea that, once we go to the edited room, we'll fix all our mistakes. And I don't think that worked. And I think Secret Invasion is, to me, the biggest one where I could see that nobody really knew what was happening or what they were doing. And they were just thinking we're going to fix this when we're doing all the editing. And it sucks, man. It just sucks. Because now they're saying going forward, they're going to do these things. But to me, that also says you're just giving an excuse as to why your shows have sucked. And I'm going to believe it because some of them really did suck. Some of them needed a little bit more.
I got one that I want to hear your opinion because I'm torn. Miss Marvel, right? Miss Marvel, I liked the approach to it. I like how obviously it was very much full of great music, the visuals, how they had
the style of it,
the graffiti, awesome. The visuals going through the streets, through the walls, beautiful, right? Everything in the cultural,
the teenage-ish part of it,
the cultural the inclusion of it, amazing. But then the storyline was just kind of okay, and then now knowing where it's going to lead with the whole movie that's coming out, I don't know how overall I feel about the show.
I think it lost me a bit with the bad guys in that, just the idea of where they came from and what they brought to the table. And then
pointless.
Yeah, and then how they went to prison and then they escaped that prison. I'm oh, come on, it shouldn't be that easy for anybody to escape one of these Marvel prisons where super villains are being held. It just can't be that easy, or else it gets silly. Anytime it gets too silly, it loses me, man. I think Miss Marvel was right around that silliness, but I see what you're saying. So I don't know, man. I'm divided. I might not say something because I can totally see myself giving it a pass, but it also to me seemed a little bit of a fail.
The
casting was great, yeah.
And like I said, again, the things that they did with the music and the visuals was great because again, not enough shows are doing that where it's makes it more part of what you're actually watching. It's not just the end credits or the beginning of it.
You know what? I'm gonna give it a pass because I really did enjoy the fact how they were teaching me history about when she was going to the past and seeing what was happening, which was based on real events. So I'm gonna give it a pass.
When they split India and Pakistan.
Yeah, so I really did like that part of it. So I'm gonna give it a pass for that reason.
Hawkeye.
Dude, I love shows that teach you these parts of history that you didn't know about, kind of Watchmen this, stuff that nobody ever talks about, but it was part of history. But because of different things and because we grew up here in the U.S., they never teach us all these things that didn't matter, I guess, back then to whoever. Would you guys pass What If? Would you guys say that was
Yes.
It's one of the better parts of the Marvel shows.
I would pass it, but I do have complaints to the fact that they stuck with the original universe that we have going on rather than doing just one-off random stories based on these characters.
Well, they kind of did, but it was in different. It was different universes, pretty much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, I pass it in the sense of, I think anytime you have an anthology, even though, in the Marvel universe, it's kind of difficult because you're dealing with characters that already exist. Now we're just talking multiverse. I think the idea of anything that's not the freaking canon or what's the main storyline or I guess the main timeline is just so much more interesting than everything that we've been shoved down our throats for the past 20 something years of just these movies that it's just we've been following the same timeline, the same everything. And with What If, not that every episode was great, but it had that diversity. It had different, some of the episodes were great to me. Even just the idea of some of the ones that weren't as successful, where freaking Captain America ends up being just in his Hydra Stomper, and Captain Carter ends up doing that. I don't. It wasn't the best episode, but I just
Strange.
But I like the dynamic, because then all of a sudden you have this guy that we've been used to for the past few years being the freaking Captain America, the ass of America, and then all of a sudden he's like a little bitch that has to be inside of a robot. And I don't know, that's cool. Like I love that, you know.
I guess with me it's just like this idea that I feel like they're limiting themselves if they're always just gonna stick to portraying like the same characters that we're getting in the cinema or in the TV shows. Like I would have liked to be like, okay, at least there's the one episode where it's like focusing on a character that we haven't really seen, or you know, people general audience don't know much about, and they're doing a specific story. Because like even that Thor storyline one, like I remember not really being a fan of that one, but he was more
that was one of my favorite ones. But the thing that I like about it is that it kind of shows you like what a potential extreme was. Like for example, the Doctor Strange one, that's one of my favorite ones because that shows you the extent of like where it could go for Doctor Strange if things would have gone just a little bit differently or whatever. Because like that shows you kind of like what love does, and what if he can't let go of that love that he had for Dr. Palmer.
Yeah. Well, see, and that episode fed into the latest Spider-Man movie too, so that kind of had something a lot to do with it. So, see, in that sense,
the multiverse,
but at least that you understood like why he was like, you know, like you said, the potential of his madness and how it could go so wrong. And then here you get him like when he's with Peter Parker, where he's already kind of knows that he already knows like the depths, like how far it can go, which again doesn't make a great movie necessarily or a great show necessarily episode, but it's just a great connection between the two. And I think, you know, again, we were just finished talking about Ahsoka, that it comes like from the history of the other shows that it doesn't always work. But I think in bits and pieces it's kind of fun, especially if we're talking about What If.
Well, I mean, just moving on from that, because I mean, I think I think there was good things about it. I think the animation was good. I think what is it? The guy that's actually watching this, what is he called? The Watcher.
The Watcher.
The Watcher. I thought that was really cool. You know, this idea at the end that Vision or Ultron broke through all the dimensions. I thought that was like really, really cool. Especially when he's like hears him talk and it's like, wait, who's that talking? And he went looking for him. So I'll give it a pass because that was like really good, fun storytelling. I was gonna say Hawkeye. I mean, how did you guys feel about that? Me personally, I think I would give that one a pass. Yeah, I would give Hawkeye a pass.
That was actually charming.
It made me want to watch the Avengers musical.
I think that was a charming one, and I think it was a little confusing because unknowingly, I think we all thought it was gonna be his daughter, and then when it was like Haley Steinfeld, and it was just kind of like, you know, like every other Disney show, there's a lot of like not so passable moments, but I think overall it was a great relationship. It was someone that ultimately like I believe that can kind of hang, and it would be a great addition to like the new Avengers.
And I loved Florence Pugh.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then they brought back the Kingpin, not in the best way because at the end he kind of like gets his butt whooped like a little bee, but they brought him back.
But I love him.
And like Marvel stuff, like the movies, the shows, what they've been trying to do lately is like feed us like young Avengers down our throats. But she's the only one out of every young Avenger that's been introduced. She's the only one hating. No, I'm gonna say Haley. She's the only one that actually like makes me feel like I could see more of that character and actually like her because she's goofy, she's silly, she's fun. She knows she has no power, so she kind of brings this whole like every man kind of thing to it, like Hawkeye did. Yeah. So like I think her could be a lot of fun having her.
Talking about
she's the Batman of the Avengers.
Talking about the young Avengers, you reminded me of another show that we haven't talked about that threw in a horrible young like Marvel character, She-Hulk. I'm like, I hate freaking the Hulk.
That was the worst.
That was just like
that was.
I didn't hate it.
Not the show. I'm saying not the show. The Hulk son.
The Hulk son. How they just introduced him. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Or Thor's kid too. At the end of the Thor movie.
But like
that was like built up, kind of. Yeah. And that was his real daughter.
No, but yeah, like I think like you're right. Like with these shows, I think that's a lot what it's been doing, and then some of the movies too, like you said, Ironheart, Raul. But it's like I don't know, She-Hulk. I thought it was like finally good to see a show that was so different from everything else we've been getting. But I think people missed the point. I think some people didn't get it. Some people didn't really realize that that's the She-Hulk and that's who she's supposed to be. It was fun. It was a fun show to watch. It was a different perspective.
My only complaint with She-Hulk, and this is what a lot of people were like, were crapping on it, is the special effects. And at the same time, I think that's when Andor was happening. And when you see Andor, dude, and Andor, nothing about that show looks fake. Everything looks like crazy realistic. And then you go to She-Hulk, and you're like, you have one character that you gotta make look good, and you can't do that. Like, I don't understand. It was just like hurting me. But I did like She-Hulk overall. Like, that was really fun.
Dude, and I will say that like another issue, like a big issue that I had with the at least the Marvel shows that I'm still not over is how dirty they made us, or they did us with Pietro.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Quicksilver.
That was bad.
Like,
they should have never done that.
Here comes Evan Peters. Hey, I'm Peter. Like,
they should have never. They
and then I'm like, no, it's Boner, Ralph Boner.
Ralph Boner.
Like,
that was
like,
that was this idea of like, you don't mess with the X-Men in our faces unless you're actually gonna pay it off. So it's just like, yeah, they made a mistake.
Dude, and it's taking so long for them to do something. They right now they have one mutant, one confirmed mutant, and that's Kamala Khan.
Even in Doctor,
really supposed to be an Inhuman.
Oh yeah, and that was the big thing about that. But even like Doctor Strange, like bringing Xavier back, I feel like that wasn't really needed, because again, you're like putting the X-Men on me, and you're not giving it to me the way I wanted. Because the last time I saw Xavier, he was freaking like killing people around him because he had lost control of his like mental mind. So that was awesome. So like now it's like for that to maybe be his last appearance, kind of disappointing.
Well, maybe he'll be in Deadpool.
Yeah, I think he will be in Deadpool.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman is.
I mean,
but with the Marvel shows,
they were saying they're going to bring back the Toad actor, so that would be cool.
Oh yeah,
he was cool. Good. Yeah,
I don't know.
But
they're talking about Daniel Radcliffe replacing Hugh Jackman, and they're saying that he's even a possibility. They're saying that he's even a possibility in Deadpool, like as a little. Way to kind of get it going, like a way to get it going. I'm like, that'd be an amazing way to do it if you do it.
Can he have swole enough?
Dude, he is swole. Already. He's so swole, dude. There's a show. What is the show called where it's like him and God?
I'll look it up while you're talking.
There's seasons of that show where it's like the first season's like him and God. But anyways, dude, I don't know what movie role, or I think in general, he's just like, you know what, I don't want people to like think of me as Harry Potter, but I could send you a clip of him like almost butt ass naked, and he's so buff, like it's crazy, like it's insane.
Oh no,
you're looking it up. It's Miracle Workers show that you're talking about. Yeah.
All right, I'll accept it. But you're British. You can't have a British Wolverine.
Dude, yeah, you can. He's not going to be a British Wolverine.
He's supposed to be Canadian.
But like, he's not going to be a
Hugh Jackman and Australian?
Yeah.
He's like, I was against Hugh Jackman being Wolverine when I heard that they cast him. But he turned out to be good.
Well, that's so crazy, because technically that role was supposed to go to the Mission Impossible 2 bad guy, but then scheduling conflicts didn't work out.
Was the Mission Impossible 2 bad guy?
The one that fights Tom Cruise. I don't know the actor's name, but he was the one
it's Mission Impossible. Of course, a bad guy's gonna fight Tom Cruise.
So you don't know Mission Impossible 2 with what's his name, the director?
I don't remember.
With the pigeons, dude. There's that crazy scene with the pigeons and the motorcycles. They're going at each other with the motorcycles. Oh, dude, my
I don't
friend.
Remember. Do you know how many Mission Impossibles there are?
There's 7 of them, my friend. No, I don't know.
I just remember the first one, the first villain. And then Henry Cavill.
Daniel Radcliffe would be great, man. Watch the movie Horns. It's my favorite movie of his. Like, if you guys haven't seen Horns, it's my favorite movie of his. It's crazy.
Okay.
Watch it.
So
Horns.
So Mission Impossible 2, directed by legendary director John Woo. And I think the guy that I'm talking about, his name is Doug Gray Scott. And I think he was originally cast as Wolverine, but because of scheduling conflicts with this movie, he had to drop out. And then the role went to Hugh Jackman. And history happened after that.
But his name's Scott, so he should have been Cyclops.
Scott Summers.
But yeah, and honestly, on Disney, I haven't watched anything else besides random, like maybe rewatching Infinity War, because I apparently rewatch it a lot, and then watching some of the X-Men show from back in the day, and maybe some Simpsons. I did watch Bad Batch. but I never finished it.
Okay, I saw. Yeah,
but that's really all I've ever watched on Disney Plus.
I think that was a lot of the bigger shows, right? I don't think we missed anything like huge.
I mean, we didn't talk too much about Obi-Wan, but I know that's a fail for us because
I liked it.
The last episode,
but that's because I like Ewan McGregor.
They didn't
go watch other movies.
Yeah,
I just love him.
They didn't
watch Moulin Rouge again.
No, it could have been better, man. It could have been tighter. It could have been better. It's just again a little bit too silly.
I wasn't a big fan of the girl as Leia.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of any of the scenes with her, not because of the actress, but just how unbelievable they were. That just kind of made you not want to watch it. Like,
I didn't think she was that great of an actress.
Yeah,
I mean, she's like a kid, Raul.
Leave the kid alone. Like the idea that if Darth Vader was real and it's like, quick, somebody make a line of fire, he can't cross it, like that stops him. Like, I'm never gonna get over that.
You've been foiled by this one line of fire, even though you're burned all over your body.
No, I told you guys. For me, is that scene with little Princess Leia's running in the forest, and the guys start chasing her, and she goes underneath the big old branch or the knocked over tree, and the guy just gets like stuck on the tree. He's like, I give up. He just walks back.
It reminds me of that monkey movie when he's in the monkeys in the hotel. I don't even remember. It's a kids movie. But yeah, like
King
Kong.
Dustin checks in.
Yeah, that one.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Yes. Because you know what, Ro? I know my movies. I know my movies.
I know actors. A lot of actors. But yeah, but dude, like it just there were definitely issues. I think that most of the Star Wars shows have had issues, except I think Andor was like the perfect mix of everything. That, like, I'm sure you could like nitpick a few things, but it was the best made Star Wars show, and I would even say it's better than the movies, than the second trilogy.
Dunstan Checks In came out in 1996. That's a hell of a long time. Well, I mean, I know we went through this really quick, and hopefully once Loki season 2 is done, maybe we can kind of like review that one and talk about it in detail, and spend a little bit more time and maybe some of these other ones that we kind of briefed through them if people do want to hear that. But all right, man, that was fun, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. But we'll talk to you guys soon. We gotta cut this one, man. We're running late.
Bye.
All right. Ro, watch some TikToks on Rebels. Bye.
I don't wanna.